Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Goodshot and this is Goodshot Gaming. Today we're taking a look at a Steam Early Access title. I'll review it and at the end I'll give it a target score based on 10 shots. The game for today's Early Access review could be the next Socom, or it could be more vaporware from the realm of Steam Early Access. Let's find out together. Also, don't forget about our goal to reach 500 subs. Click the link above in the corner or down in the description to watch my video on it. Basically, if we reach 500 subs, then I'm giving away a free $30 Steam game of the winner's choice. H-Hour Worlds Elite has had its beginnings back in 2013 from what I've been able to tell. A guy named Tom, no, not this Tom. Actually, it may have been since I can't seem to find Tom's full name anywhere. Though, unless MySpace Tom was a Special Forces operator, I doubt it was him. Actually, it's this Tom. So maybe this Tom with some guns around? I don't know. Apparently, SOF Studios, who is the developer of H-Hour Worlds Elite, is led by a former SOF operator. Or, at least, was, since his name doesn't show up under the current devs for the game. Anyway, he wanted to create a Socom US Navy SEAL style clone, and he caught the eye of David Sears, who had previously worked on the Socom games. He became the creative director of SOF Studios and helped get the Kickstarter underway. A year or so later, David stepped down for personal reasons, but the studio claimed that he helped make sure that all the building blocks were in place for a successful Socom successor. Fast forward to 2016, and a release to Steam Early Access was made. Later that year, funding had run out, but a handful of community members and current SOF Studio developers stepped up to continue the work and develop the game. In 2018, they announced work on a PS4 port, but stayed firmly committed to the working on a full release for PC. I bought it in 2016 when it hit Steam Early Access, and it wasn't much of a game, or at least it didn't seem to be, so I never actually played it. When I randomly selected it in my Steam library, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to capture any gameplay since it was a multiplayer only game. I was worried about there not being a player base. Luckily I was wrong. The game seemed to have a pretty loyal, if not small, fan base, which I'll cover more in the gameplay section. As far as I can tell though, I haven't seen any progress on the PS4 port, and I have doubts that it'll ever come to be. However, devs do seem to be putting out updates every few months or so, so that's a good sign to me, and hopefully it bodes well for the future of the game. Here we get to talk about the tech and audio behind H-Hour Worlds Elite. The game is made in Unreal 4. The end. No, I'm just kidding. It is made in Unreal 4, but so many games are nowadays. It's decent looking, the character animations are, well, they're okay. They're nothing too crazy to write home about. But it's an indie game, so I can kind of let some of that slide. There is this weird jump to prone animation that seems awkward and strange, and I can see how it could be abused, but it could be worse. Sound design is actually something I don't hate about the game. Guns and explosives could use a little bit more punch, but the directional audio seems to work pretty well. I've mostly played on community maps and not developer-made ones, but that seems to be the life and blood of the game, so I can't really separate it and compare base maps to added ones. Honestly, there isn't a whole lot of tech to talk about. Things work decently well. I didn't encounter any real bugs. Server lag happened on a few times, but that could have just been my connection or the fact that I can only find one active server with players. So that's going to wrap up our tech and audio. It's an Unreal 4 game, and if you've played an Unreal 4 game, you know what it looks like. They all have that kind of Unreal looking engine. You know, there's not a whole lot there. But from what I've seen, tech and audio side, they've got things down pretty well. Now for the part that I'm sure many people care about, gameplay. Is this a Socom successor, or just a generic third-person shooter? I can say with a little reservation that this game does indeed play like a Socom game. The third-person camera behaves just like Socom Confrontation. The gunplay is very similar. The visual styling is all there. There are a few gameplay things I don't like, however. For me, the biggest thing is the giant reticle. It has almost no sense of point of aim. Like, I seriously never know where my bullets are gonna hit. And I recall this being a thing in Socom as well, but this seems way more clunky than I remember. The other issue that I have is just the skill curve. That's not always a bad thing, and it's something that can be fixed with just more time played. You can't really expect to start playing a game and just be great at it. I mean, some people are, but I'm not. But when the community seems to be just 12 or 16 active players at any given time, it feels like you're only ever playing against really great players, since they've probably been playing a long time. And that's not to say that the game isn't fun. I actually had a few fun play sessions, but it's not something that I look at myself and say, yes, I want to play this. It's more something that I see and go, oh right, I told myself I'd play this to review. Most of the maps I've played have been ports or recreations of Socom maps, ones that I haven't played in probably 10 or more years. And that probably speaks more to my specific outlook than anything overly objective, but what else is a review than just my opinions? Characters move in pretty decent ways, and the camera makes corner peeking pretty easy. A lot of the late game tactics seem to be to hide in corners, use the camera to peek, and surprise the enemy, which again is just like Socom. Your character can lean and you can zoom in to first person, and even use a scope if your gun is equipped with one. But I found these are too restrictive to be useful to me. The reticle is just as bad in first person, and the one scope weapon I did use, the M4, had way too much recoil for the scope to be useful. Grenades tend to be king in this game from what I've seen. You figure out where the enemy usually go, chuck them over there, and call it a day. You know, it seems to be most people carry 2 loadouts of secondary grenades. So that's, I think, 4 grenades total. And you tend to see a lot of bunny hopping. Again, it's a shooter. Games that have jumping, bunny hopping, you're going to see all the time. Most of the game modes play like team deathmatch, regardless of the objective, and it's a 1 life game. So you spawn, go attack, die, and are dead the rest of the round. I think most games have about 12 rounds per map. You have 2 sides, SOF on one side and terrorists on the other, and each side gets unique guns to that team. Speaking of the guns, there's a decent number, but not so many that you can get easily confused, and most play similar to other guns in the class. ARs, machine guns, snipers, etc. I mostly rock the ARs. To me, they all pretty much play similarly, almost exactly the same. You have different fire select modes. You have single auto or semi-auto, burst fire, full auto, and I think the G36 only has burst, or the FAMAS only has burst. They have different characteristics, but they all pretty much play the same. Honestly, I want this game to go places. I want it to do well. I liked what I saw, even if I'm looking at 7 years of development and 4 years in early access. I went from afraid I wouldn't find a match to wanting to see this game have more players and a living community. The fact that it's still getting updates makes me hopeful, but I'm more afraid that it's going to die in early access, or that even a full release would have little effect on the player account. Would I recommend anyone to go buy it? No, probably not, unless you really want to sink time into it and be good, and make friends with a dozen or so current players. The basis for a good game is there. It just hasn't made it quite yet. So, I give this game 4 out of 10 shots on target. That's it for today's review. Make sure you're liking and subscribing for more content, and stay tuned for next week's review. Have a great day, y'all.